Hey there, my name is Rachel Hall and I help teachers set up and maintain the literacy stations in their classrooms. Today we're going to talk about student behavior and classroom management for your reading centers. So important. So make sure you click like on this video. It's not just a vanity number. I rarely check it, but it's just so YouTube knows that if you like this video, they're going to show it to more teachers out there just like you who would like to have more help with their classrooms. So let's get started with some really good classroom management strategies for your reading centers. Next to your students' goals and providing content for them to review the skills you've taught them, student behavior is so important for your literacy centers. If you don't start out with strong classroom management strategies, you're going to have a difficult time reteaching your kiddos about the expectations at your centers. So here's my first tip. You need to know your expectations ahead of time. At each center, jot down what you expect from your students. Some things to think about are, do you want your center to be absolutely silent where they're not talking? Or is it a center where they are able to, but they have to use the inside voice or a 3-inch voice or whisper voice, whatever you call it, with a partner? Are they seated the whole time at the center, or are they able to move around and more flexible seating kind of arrangement? What about the work you want them to do? Does it need to be finished before they leave the center, or are you going to provide work in progress folders for them? They need to know if they need to finish before they leave so they'll stay on task. Even some things you might not think about, are they allowed to color their activities before they start, writing or practicing the skill? Or do you want to do that after the activity is completed? Things like that. What about transitions? How will your students move from one center to the next? Are you going to play music? Are you going to sing a song or do a rhyme? Or how are they going to move from their centers to your guided reading table when you call their group up? Think about years in the past. What drove you completely bonkers? What behavior just grated on your nerves and it happened every day and you had enough? Take that and set expectations to minimize or eliminate just that problem. That's a good way to start. For me, it was arguments over shared materials. There were a couple years where my kids just didn't share well. They couldn't share the crayons, the scissors, there was a beloved pair of blue scissors that they fought over, and they were blue scissors. They weren't anything special, but I had to eliminate those problems pretty quickly. So I had to also change the way that I set out my materials for my reading centers. So hint, hint, that's next week. So I'll tell you about that next week when I do another video for literacy centers. Now you can jot all this down in a notebook or even a scratch piece of paper, but I have a free Literacy Stations planner to help you, and you can get a copy at literacystations.com/planner in the link of the descriptions below, or you can just type that in too. Now once you have your expectations set, start teaching these on day 1. And this is a golden piece of advice for you. Because I never really had anyone teach me when I was a brand new teacher, back before color television. Okay, not really, but close. All I knew was that I wanted to do centers. I really did. But I never taught my students how to behave at each center. I never fostered those good habits for them. And so there was problems, and it was frustrating for me. And a lot of times I gave up and I would skip centers altogether just because I couldn't manage it. And so I hope for you to help you with the things that I learned along the way to help you with your centers, because smooth centers that can run themselves while you do what's important is guided reading is going to be just make one part of your next year's teaching just run really, really, really well. Now you're going to want to model. I put on my best acting role. I mean, we're talking Oscar-winning performance, and I show them what I want them to do, and I'm dramatic when something doesn't go my way, and what we don't want to do. I mean, we show all the things, And, I mimic fighting over crayons and blue scissors and things like that, so they can see what to do and what not to do. And we talk about it a lot. I ask them, what did you see that will work well with our centers? And what did you see that won't work well with our centers? And why? Why isn't that going to help you learn? Then we make charts. Lots of charts. We take the things that we discussed and we'll make a T-chart about what each center should look like and what it should sound like, what we should be doing and not doing. And then we'll make that chart. Then we'll make a can-do poster. I like to be more proactive instead of negative, so my charts were never don't talk or don't color before your work is finished, that sort of thing. Instead, I'll take the ideas that we wrote out and I make a student behavior chart to post at each center. For example, at the listening center, the chart might say at the top, like, at the listening center, I can, and there's bullet points underneath, listen to the book silently or use a sticky note to respond. Draw the main idea. And so those expectations are our rules instead of don't do this. So that always just kind of helped my students know what to do. On years that I'm super with it, I'll take pictures of my students practicing their stations. And so then I'll post those along with the charts so they have a visual cue as well. Now, all of this is before your kids are even going to set foot in your centers. They're not even going to get a chance to touch a thing yet. Hopefully, you won't have a big push to begin your centers right away and begin a guided reading right away, because this is so important and it's going to save you so much time in the long run. When you're not trying to correct that unwanted student behavior at each center, you're going to get more done in the long run than try to hurry up and get started. So really give yourself like a month to really hone in on each center, especially if you have more than 1 or 2, even 3, 4, or 5 centers. Now, when you're ready to begin having your students practice at each station, take it super slow. I usually don't promote busy work for teachers, but in this case, if there's something that your class can do, the whole class can do while you're pulling a few kids back to practice each center, then that will be very helpful. I liked Epic for a reading platform, so while my kids were using Epic on their devices, I would pull my kids back and watch them practice their centers, and we'd discuss what they need to do. And keep practicing. Remember, with anything that you do with your students, practice makes perfect. And you're going to need to practice over and over again until it becomes habit and you're comfortable with those independent centers. Another thing to keep in mind is that your kiddos might need a refresher. I always take the week after we return from Christmas break to review our centers, or even around spring break too when they come back. Even first graders get spring fever. So remember, practicing at the beginning of the year will solve a ton of student behavior for you for the rest of the year. Now, I want you to stay tuned for the next video where we talk about those materials that the kids need to share. Don't forget to click like and subscribe so you can get a chance to see that, and I will see you then. Bye.